Greetings to all those gathered at our Atlantic Council headquarters here in Washington, D.C., a standing room only audience, Mr. Prime Minister, on a Friday afternoon. Welcome to our viewers tuning in from Iraq, from Europe, the Middle East, around the globe. I'm Fred Kempham, President and CEO of the Atlantic Council. I'm delighted to welcome you all to today's edition of Atlantic Council Front Page, our premier platform for global leaders. Today, we're honored to host Prime Minister Mohammed Shia Al Sudani of Iraq as we delve into the discussions on fortifying the relationship between Iraq and the United States and Iraq's pivotal role in shaping the broader landscape of the Middle East. Prime Minister Sudani's visit to Washington concludes a significant week of engagements, during which he has met with President Joe Biden, among others, to address various issues, including the Strategic Framework Agreement and putting the U.S.-Iraqi partnership on a new and more sustainable foundations. These discussions have encompassed topics such as strengthening bilateral ties between Baghdad and Washington, reforms within the Iraqi financial sector, and initiatives aimed at fostering economic prosperity for the Iraqi people. Against the backdrop of dramatic regional developments in the Middle East, Prime Minister Sudani's insights are invaluable as we navigate these complexities. And in light of these developments, Mr. Prime Minister, we're honored to have you share your vision for the future of the U.S.-Iraqi relationship and for the pivotal role Iraq plays in the broader Middle East and beyond. I encourage both our in-person and virtual attendees to actively engage in today's dialogue. Following the Prime Minister's keynote address, there will be an opportunity for questions facilitated by Dr. Abbas Kadim, the Senior Director of Iraq Initiative, and Mr. Prime Minister, one of the leading experts anywhere on the issues concerning your country. I'm also glad to have in the audience the Senior Director of our Middle East programs, Will Wexler. You can participate in the discussion by interacting with us on X, formerly Twitter, by following Atlantic Council and utilizing the hashtag #ACFrontPage. Additionally, questions for the Prime Minister can be submitted through askac.org, askac.org. Following the Prime Minister's remarks, Abbas will join him on stage, and he is joining him on stage already, but they'll be joining him on stage for a moderated discussion. And with that, Mr. Prime Minister, it is my honor to welcome you to the podium.
In the name of the merciful God, peace be unto you, all of you. Good evening. First of all, I would like to actually thank the Atlantic Council for hosting us here today, and also that I could here meet you in Washington, in the capital, during my visit here to the United States of America. Of course, you are a selection of people that are interested in Iraq, and whether from you come from academic and research institutions, and I'm very, very aware of your diversity of your interested, and I'm thankful for all your efforts when it comes to research, or distinguished research that you produce, and especially when it comes to solve social problems, security problems, international issues, and also to support political decision makers. I have come to Washington to open a new page of our relationship here between Iraq and the United States of America. And so to discuss many of important issues and firstly, of course, when it comes to the strategic framework and push our relationship forward when it comes to all the essential matters, whether it's economic, environmental, educational, cultural, and also to cooperate when it comes to energy production and support the economy, and of course the military and security issues. So we have discussed with the United States about many, speaking about long-term relationship and the common interests that are between us, and also the cooperation that could be fruitful between our two people. And we, of course, have our policies all based on a vision that we have drawn for ourselves, and that is that Iraq is first. This is the principle. And also there is another principle, is that diplomacy, productive diplomacy, when it comes to our external or foreign relationships with different countries, and that would actually focus on common interest between us and cooperating with the international community. And of course, we understand about the interest of people in our region and how it relates to our interest. And we want Iraq to be a point of meetings of the mind and discussion, rather than just communicating messages, but be there as a center for the Middle East. And right now, Iraq has come back to its healthy position, and right now we are focusing on building infrastructures that will eventually connect Iraq to the outside world. And that is in addition to what we are witnessing as on a social and economic level or cultural level in the country. We have to refer to something that actually Iraqis have been victorious when it comes to coming together as one people. And that victory, or these victories, series of victories, have actually united the people of Iraq toward a better future and stable future, stability. And of course, we have many of these different details that we are just going to summarize here, and afterward we could actually deal with it when we have questions and answers. And I believe that most of your questions will be on possibly the security side and the military side, and maybe what events have taken place in our region lately. So I will not speak about that in our introduction. We'll speak about it later. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, during a week or so, we have had many meetings, many important meetings, that, of course, most importantly, with the President Biden, and we spoke about the strategic treaty and how we can actually develop our relationship for betterment for our both countries. And we actually focused on the partnership between our two countries. And we found that we found a very positive climate when it comes to what we want to establish in future near future. And we actually focused on the importance on the conversation that we should have as MC when it comes to our military cooperation. And we also met with a foreign minister and also Defense Secretary, also the Treasury in the Treasury Department, and many of senators and members of Congress or the House, and we spoke about several issues and important issues, especially when it comes to the economy and commerce and investments in Iraq. And we also met with some others in the security apparatus and services. And we have had many meetings also with companies, private companies that are working in Iraq. And these are many, many companies and other companies that have, of course, desire to enter our market, and many other uh, meetings in Michigan and Houston and in Washington when it comes to Iraqi communities in these cities. So we found that there are many projects and many opportunities that actually have been exposed, or American companies have been exposed to, addressed energy and gas, natural gas, and how we can actually burn or flare the gas, accompanying gas capture, and also to build a a platform in in FAO port, and also spoke about refineries, spoke about fertilizers and the production of fertilizers in in the Treasury Department. We found out that, well, we started with a title of partnership between the two countries, and that this is an understanding and respect between these partners when we make our decisions. So we went and reviewed all the procedures that were actually uh, applied in the last period, in the last many years, and we agreed on establishing a committee. That committee, partnership committee, that would deal with with companies, specialized companies. So that will be a great advancement in how we could actually deal in dollars or American dollars when it comes to our government. Uh, and also, they had seen the advancement that Iraq had actually accomplished when it comes to banking system and a transformation for our banking system here in a time that we have had in this government or ministries. And there have been many transfer of money that came to about 80% more transactions. And so that is transactions to the outside, from Iraq to the outside, electronically. And so the Treasury did actually recognize the efforts of Iraq in all these matters. And here, our government, we are focused also on developing our financial system and actually attract the investments from all of countries all over the world to actually participate in the elevation of our projects and building our country. And right now, there are so many projects, on the commercial level and economic level, that actually in the last year and a half of this government has been actually on our mind and accomplished in the last year and a half. As to our region, as to what is happening in Gaza right now, comes to this very atrocious war under the Netanyahu government. Right now, it is exposing the whole region to great dangers, which we cannot even predict what the outcome would be. So all of us, and especially the United States as a leader, have to stop this war immediately and stop the bloodshed and find a better solution for a state, a Palestinian state that actually had been decided on the international level for decades. And right now, to enlarge the war or expand the war right now is a true and real danger to the world peace, and we have to actually repeat our warnings when it comes to expanding the size or uh, the borders of this conflict. So this is what we have been speaking in general terms in our visit here, and we will address the other topics through, of course, the questions and answers that we are going to have. Of course, we also have another note I would like to share with you. I noticed that even before we came to Washington, that there is a negative uh, image about what is happening in Iraq, and it exaggerates uh, so many points about peace, about Daesh or ISIS is being a huge threat in Iraq. Although what is happening in reality on the ground is the opposite of what these messages or image that is being propagated. So when our friends anyone come to our airport, international airports, you see that we speak about investments, about economic, about delegations, about education, about culture. This is what you hear as soon or person that is flies into Iraq right now. This is what I would like. This is the image that I would like you to see, and a correct image of Iraq that will be in your minds from here forward. Right now, I'll speak to Dr. Abbas and thank him right now I thank you for organizing this session, and I actually thank everyone that is with us. Peace be unto you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and welcome again to the Atlantic Council. I would like also to welcome our esteemed audience, particularly the delegation that accompanied His Excellency the Prime Minister, and also I would like to thank the Iraqi Embassy for coordinating with us for almost a month and a half or 2 months to have this event brought to you. Their cadre, Dr. Karar al-Bderi and others, and certainly Ambassador Nazar al-Khairallah, who has been following up on every detail, made our work possible, Mr. Prime Minister. I would also like to thank Fred Kemp, our president, who has supported our work on Iraq and whose vision led to having this program on Iraq that is allowing us to host His Excellency Prime Minister Mohammed Shia Al Sudani to speak with our esteemed colleagues here in this place. أعود إلى دولة الرئيس للسهولة الحديث سنجري هذا الكلام باللغة العربية.
Prime Minister, we will switch to Arabic now. I would like to thank you for what you have said. You answered a lot of questions that we had previously. You covered your visit, and I have some follow-up questions about that. But this presentation allows us to dive deeper in the conversation and discuss the role that Iraq plays in the region. The first question, the most reasonable question regarding this visit from the viewers, and as you described, it was a very successful visit and achieved a lot of goals in improving the relationship between Iraq and the United States. And this, of course, cooperation represented by the meeting of the Prime Minister Al Sudani and President Biden. Following up on the opportunities that you described, we are witnessing an opportunity to transfer these opportunities into groundwork in the following years. How can we expect these agreements to be realistic and on the ground in the Iraqi-American relationships? Thank you, Doctor. To be fair, the previous government used to conduct the bilateral relationships in the form of brief visits and ending that cooperation within that visit. Currently, we are looking further in strategic development and coordinating with the council, and we have many commissions that are dedicated to coordinating these efforts further. We prepared action work, documentation in various sectors, coordinating with the ministries, and those efforts were led by, of course, the Iraqi side from the Ministry of Planning. The results of the meetings between these two committees were coordination of efforts and putting up a structural plan. On another side, also the embassy is playing a very important role in addition to the consulates to follow up with these issues in Baghdad. Of course, they were all important, but as we're looking at the results, we are witnessing results that are tangible and they're realistic. Thank you so much, Prime Minister. We are looking at another question to follow up on this topic. The agreement of strategic cooperation that was signed in 2023 between Iraq and the United States. It is looking to allow more flexibility in terms of growing this relationship. The question is, knowing the direction of this cooperation based on that agreement, is the agreement enough to coordinate the relationship that is possibly the only agreement of such kind between Iraq and another country? And how can we look into furthering this cooperation with other important countries in the West? Were the conditions when that preceded the agreement prior to 2024? Do we need to adjust this agreement from the perspective of the Iraqi government? Or does it allow for flexibility to allow for some adjustment in this relationship, specifically, as you mentioned, some aspects that were not foreseen during the signing of that agreement? Yes, this agreement responds to the legal framework that could be the building block for all the sectors in Iraq and their counterparts in the United States. The framework of the relationship between the two countries. We're witnessing some changes, of course. On the 4th of September, I'm sorry, on the 9th of April, we're witnessing some the anniversary of these changes, and we're looking at the military and security aspects. At some point, of course, some requirements were put in place in terms of anti-terrorism efforts. We are looking at a new reality today. This reality is based on the level of development of security sectors. Today, we are looking at a lot of coordination with friendly allies in the Arab world or beyond. Even when we're talking about of standing up and countering ISIS, we have institutions and systems with a very sophisticated capacity to face these challenges in Iraq and outside. We are a developed country economically, technologically, and now it's an opportunity for Iraq to develop furthermore, looking at programs and improvement. Iraq is ranking the 5th in the world in the oil reserves and the 3rd in the world in exports of oil in OPEC. There are many, many resources that has not been developed yet. And it's possible to create this important role in the region. And we need to achieve through this relationship and through the coordination during this visit. And we are witnessing positive response from inside of Iraq. And we are looking at it and say it's a correct transition. We are proud of this partnership. And it was put in a very strategic aspect and with a long-term perspective. It is not only a relationship between two governments, it's a relationship between two nations. Thank you so much. Of course, the relationship with the United States and important other players in the West, it's important to shed the light on these issues, but equally important is to shed the light on the relationship between Iraq and other countries in the region. Probably the priority is for Iraq to have a distinct role in the region. Iraq is starting to build relationships and improving them starting 2016. And even with the change of government, and today we are, of course, with the government that is headed by Prime Minister Al Sudani. It's important, of course, to play the role of a coordinating player. Either we're talking about the relationship between Iraq and the threat of Iran, and of course the relationships of Iraq and the Arab countries, and not forgetting Iraq and non-Arab countries like Turkey and Iran. These relationships, how can we develop them? How can they be framed under the framework of international relationships? Over the years, it was important to create the understanding how important it is to have a stable Iraq. Of course, there are some supporters and some opposition to these these ideas. And today, looking at the political relationships of Iraq with the efforts in the region, they're reflecting the policy of what's happening inside Iraq. And we're talking about the national identity, which is important for our country. It's important to have the diversity in its identity, and this gave a reassurance to everyone. Now we're going back to a real role, a leadership role in the region for Iraq. It's important for Iraq to be stable, to provide stability for the region. We believe that Iraq is not a problem. Iraq is the solution in a lot of these topics. When we talk about Iran, our neighbor, historically, of course, there are a lot of changes in our relationship. We have a very unique position. It can be used to provide more stability to a lot of issues, and we played an important role with Arabic countries. Not only as a messenger, but as a solution finder in coordination, of course, with our brothers in other countries like Saudi Arabia. We have an excellent relationship with them and other countries, and we are leading these efforts. For example, when we're talking about the tri-effort, Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq, it was a very important initiative to stabilize the economic efforts in the region and provide stability in the economic sector. When we launched Baghdad dialogues, it provided a lot of clarity and responsibility and commitment. And then as we are focusing on economy and strategic development, due to the strategic location of our country and the role that we play, I think that we found a clear response and cooperation from our allies and friends in various sectors. Thank you so much, Prime Minister. Staying in the region, you mentioned Turkey, and speaking of the Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the relationship between Iraq and Turkey has some complication. It is an important economic partner for Iraq in terms of also the reconstructive efforts. There are some variations of that dialogue of supporting or not. Also, the Turkish forces that are present inside Iraq. What are the topics that will be prioritized by Prime Minister Sudani that you expect, of course, to be also supported by Recep Tayyip Erdogan, of course, considering the priorities of each countries. The upcoming visit of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the following coming Monday to Baghdad, it's an important visit. It didn't come by a random invitation. It came after a whole year of coordination and communication with their government based on the topic that were discussed and prepared in coordination with our neighbors. We're looking at opportunities and interests, and of course, the challenges of water, security. These are among the topics that will be discussed. We are putting them in one file. We are not focusing on one aspect and forgetting the rest. We found that there is a true desire from both governments to find solutions, not from a perspective of holding on to one position or another, but it was the first time that sensitive topics will be discussed, will be communicated to find a solution. And we agreed on a variety of these topics after a series of bilateral meetings and communications throughout all this period. This relationship that is built on mutual respect. We are not allowing for Iraqi soil to be attacked by by Turkish forces, and as well, we're taking responsibility, not going to be allowing for any Iraqi forces to pose a threat to Turkey. We have strategic solutions that were presented after long discussions. It will provide long-term solutions that will not be affected by water shortage issues worldwide, but it will be bilateral interest-based in regards of water and water use. So, of course, in the economic sector, we're looking on the importance of trading passage that will connect Europe with the East. We're communicating with our partners in Turkey on levels of ministries and companies, and this project is coming soon, God willing.
And now we can speak about the interior of Iraq. And right now, in comparison with the other governments that had been there and speaking about 20-year plans and 10-year plans, and which actually it takes a lot of effort, so that may not have been available to the other or the preceding governments in Iraq. So right now, now Prime Minister Sudani, you have come from a personal your background. You were a minister before, or you became also a governor for one of the regions in Iraq, and you were outside the government for some time, and you always took the side of the citizen of Iraq, of the consumer in Iraq, and there were actually some judicial procedures that that you participated on. So right now, you came to a you want to the direction of making small steps or small victories toward the goals that Iraq has in your vision. So right now, speaking about infrastructures, roads, hospitals, is this going to continue? What is the relationship between the relationship between the people and the government, and how much trust does the people of Iraq have in, or every citizen in Iraq have in its own government? So right now, what is the effect of the work of government on the people? And right now, are you actually speaking about, how do you address the short-term and the long-term strategic plans for Iraq? Yes, we uh, we hear a question. It's not very clear what there is a female speaking in the audience and speaking or addressing the prime minister at this time. So there is no microphone, but it sounds like a rebuke here and shortcomings of the government. So again, I cannot hear the conversation or the question or the comment here clearly. It seems like someone is yelling and ha, 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 will resume shortly after this interruption.
أجل تحسين الخدمات للمواطنين وأيضا
And this is obviously to enhance the services and also the credibility of actually executing what the government has planned. And in that sense, you till the commitments are over and done with, and you
put these priorities into action. And mainly, the goal was to continue on small projects that would provide services to the people of Iraq in Baghdad and in the provinces. And then we started seeing improvement in the quality and the scope of the services that are provided to the Iraqi population. The goal was to establish the credibility of the government and before the Iraqi people, and also to actually implement the governance program that the government gave. Governance programs in the past have been a speech to be given on the day of the inauguration of the government, and then it will be forgotten. And with our style of governance is that we are actually following up on the items or individual items of this governance program.
بنفس الوقت نحن مستمرون بمشاريع.
We actually have many projects that we continue to do when it comes to strategic projects in agriculture, in manufacturing, in energy, environment, and in that way we could actually activate and push forward all the sectors of the economy in Iraq altogether. And that will obviously result in better services to our people in Iraq.
In the agricultural sector, in the energy sector, and also to activate the various sectors in Iraqi economy, and especially the ones that are providing the opportunities for the Iraqi workforce to gain employment, and also to provide services to their own population. And all of this in order to create a vibrant environment, and economically and politically.
كل 6 أشهر نقدم تقرير تفصيلي.
Every 6 months, of course, we actually present a report with numbers, and it's a transparent way, and that will be actually published. In that way, we could actually enhance the trust between the government and the people.
Yes. Thank you very much. Well, looks like the translation got I'm very grateful. دولة الرئيس. Well, you have to wear several hats when you are.
That's
what Fred meant when he said. Basically, that's someone like me here will do probably a decent job. دولة الرئيس مرة ثانية عودة إلى
Mr. Prime Minister, of course, right now, when it comes to the projects, economic project, these are very important projects, and this will actually clarify that right now is a transformation from where Iraq was, dependency on oil and products, oil products. Right now, this is from the 60s till recently. So right now, this may help in some countries or in the region or some other countries, but country like Iraq has approximately 40 million in population, 40 million people, so have the capacity to be a leading country in the region, and actually has many other resources, of course, including oil, but even that the oil could actually transport the different forms of production and productivity. So and so we're not speaking only about manufacturing, but also to create new jobs. And right now, so the government cannot do it all by itself. In other words, the governmental sector, but also the private sector has to be involved. So what is the vision of the Sudani government and Iraqi in general when it comes to medium and long-term vision to transform this economy to the multi-sector economy and be organized and it be, not dependent on a government per se, solely. So right now, when it comes to reforming the economy, I agree with you what you have said. What we actually count on the revenues of oil, so we could have the budget necessary to conduct our projects and execute them but we do also look for investments from the outside or outside that budget. But right now, so for instance, flaring of natural gas right now, this is one of the big projects that we have decided on, and this actually causes a loss of 1,300,000 cubic foot, and that is of course has bad environmental outcomes or results. And so and also we purchased from Iran, and that's about $4 million of gasoline and similar products. We used to export about $3.5 million to $4 billion, but right now, how can you imagine that we have about 4 million barrels of oil, and yet we have to import products that are refined from the outside, like such as we're doing with Iran. So right now, during this period of time, we wanted to actually focus on associated gas in the production, so we could take advantage of that associated gas in our and we have a UAE country, our company called Hilal, and also through our own company. So we would be self-dependent when it comes to natural gas, and we stop this war on for natural gas. And we come to self-sufficiency when it comes to derivative from oils, and so we could also bring the quantity to stop. Hopefully, at the end of this year, we stop importing any of these products, especially natural gas. And so this will affect the health sector, the housing sector, the educational sector. So when it comes to agriculture, right now we do have self-sufficiency when it comes to flour. Right now, of course, the world is suffering from that due to the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. So, and right now we are also have in Basra, we have many manufacturing facilities that are actually bringing us to that self-sufficiency. So we have done or arrived to a great status forward, and so we're not speaking about oil distinguished as distinguished sector, but we want the other sectors to where we can see some of this improvements. And right now we have for instance, a development fund that's with a new thought, a new type of thinking. And this is again the government from before. It was more like a social, had a social or socialistic type uh, of a vision. Right now, that did not actually help the people or the country in general. Right now, we have a new direction going. So we, as a government, we are organizing, we're regulating, but allowing the private sector to do help us with our advancements. So, does the government right now uh, plan for uh, the infrastructure and changes into the infrastructure and changing some of the laws that Iraq has been using since 2003, and these laws came from even from before 2003. And like you said, the government had a different direction, different form, different way of they operated with. So right now, for the vision that you spoke about, do we need for a new system and new laws to so where are the solutions here when it comes to the new then?
Yes, we do need to amend those laws. We need to create an attractive environment for a lot of various companies. We have the best law already, but some amendments are required. And we created actually the Economic Amendments Act, and we started by improving the taxation system. And the past year, we actually witnessed a huge growth in various sectors, because we are looking at 20% growth in other aspects and that are not related to the oil sector. Of course, 80% was the goal of dependency on the oil sector. Prior to that, of course, the reality was 95 to 90% dependency on the oil sector. But we are witnessing these changes, and we have a lot of investments, large investments coming from the outside. For example, investor Najib Suarez from Egypt, he took a license to create a residential project in the southern district with a capacity of 120,000 units. Today, we're talking about large projects of 5 billion. We are communicating in our, of course, team. We are acknowledging the challenges when it comes to bureaucracy. We are also combating corruption, which was one of the factors that was deterring investors. Thank you so much. One of the topics that are mentioned a lot in Washington is that Iraq is a federal government. The federal aspect has not been formed completely in comparison to what was outlined in the Constitution. We do have some regions that are not adherent to all the aspects when it comes to distribution of resources in comparison with the centers, and we witness how you successfully conducted elections. So first, the relationship in the region, talking about the problems that arise between Baghdad, Erbil, and other governorates. Erbil, of course, the visit of Mr. Aqlim to Baghdad and his visit with the Prime Minister, and the topics that were discussed to address the disagreements that happened, and they were, of course, discussed thoroughly. And how do you see the relationship in the region in the framework of the main issues, distribution of resources between Baghdad and Erbil? And also, the question is, are we going to witness other regions forming in non-structured governance in Iraq? Of course, I want to point that the federal framework of our government, the federal structure, the non-central structure, is the most important aspect of our government when it comes to interpretation of our constitution. That's when the discussions open between the government in Baghdad and Erbil. We have the legal aspect to play the main role in finding resolution. These are not political problems, they are technical problems. We need to understand that there are responsibilities and there are rights, either on the region or the federal government. You cannot request rights when you are not committing to your responsibilities. Otherwise, that will lead to disruption of the whole system in the government. The problem when it comes to distribution of rates and fees, there's nothing set. It's all based on percentage, 12%, 14%, and it is, of course, all distributed through the Ministry of Finance based on the revenue of the oil sector. It is based on our constitution, as I mentioned. When the issue of the stop of distribution and export of oil from the region based on the ruling of the French court. So that of course based on the decision of Turkey that led to the blockage of salaries of the individuals who were employed. Then a case was raised in the federal court requesting distribution of those salaries. The result was immediate, and those salaries were distributed from the central banks. Another topic is the continuation of the procedures of citizenship. We distributed the monthly salaries for the 2 months of February and March. They were distributed before the holidays of Eid al-Fitr in Kurdistan, and we are hoping that we hope that they will continue to receive their well-deserved salaries monthly. Of course, we hear some sides in the Congress that are supporting the, the blockage of distribution and export of oil, and it comes to some conspiracy theories. But there is a ruling from the court, and now we're stopping everything just to find a solution. Secondly, the companies continued the production because they don't want to produce oil and export it in the light of the $8 fee for each barrel that was set by the court. And now it is $26 for each barrel. So the head of the federal government doesn't have the authority to overstep on the other areas of the government. We do have various aspects and roles to play. I cannot issue these amounts of payments whenever I please. So we have possibly various solutions in front of us when it comes, for example, to adjusting the contracts to transfer the contracts to the government. Probably that's a sensible solution because they needed those contracts within the past situation in 2014. For example, another aspect is providing a suggestion of changing the fee, the rate. But this fee is set based on the average, the technical average coming from various companies. There's no need to threaten the authority of our constitution that's providing stability in the region. It's important to provide the elections in the parliament. We currently know there is no parliament, there are no elections. Therefore, the government does not have the legitimate tools to provide the services. We need to support legitimate elections of the parliament in Kurdistan. And furthermore, encourage the coordination between the federal government and the government in Kurdistan to find solutions. Thank you so much. Probably everyone understands that the topics that were discussed fall under the understanding of what's happening inside Iraq. Iraq, I think, was expecting a census in 2020, and because of COVID, it was stopped. Currently, there is a disagreement in Iraq about the demographic in Iraq. It's important to have the ability to implement financial and economic planning is to have a better understanding of the demographics in Iraq. Some people say that the census that was conducted in 1959 could be used. But when can we witness a census that is conducted after 2003 to be used as a tool in economic plans? Is it something that the government is planning in the long term or the short term? Specifically, the census that was scheduled in 2020 unfortunately was not conducted. Yes, the census will be conducted in November of this year. 400 billion dinar was allocated for this task. A lot of planning has been implemented technically and logistically with the coordination of the United Nations. We're going to be using the latest technology. It will be used to analyze and collect data, of course, from the population. And they will be used to build our strategic development plans, as you mentioned. All the preparation has been done. And we have the support, the political support also to conduct this operation. This is a great thing to hear, great news. As you mentioned, it required a lot of hard work, and we needed to understand what to expect. I believe in 2022, we sat together in Baghdad in a similar setting, and you mentioned that the issue of climate change is one of the priorities for the current government. Iraq is still suffering specifically due to its geographic location from climate change. And Dr. Farid Yassin is one of the experts with you on this topic. And I believe you chose wisely by appointing him on this important topic. What is going on today in Iraq? What are the role that Iraq is playing to combat the shortage of water and other challenges? If you could tell us a little more. Frankly speaking, the challenges of climate change are very real on many levels, either on the shortage of water or the spreading of desert, and the shortage also of waste water management units and plants, and the requirements of coordination with the manufacturing sector, because with the shortage of water that is creating a potential disaster. When we spoke about the investment projects in the gas and oil sector, we're looking at the 5-year plan to combat and face the effects of climate change in our country. We participate in COP 22, 27 in Dubai, with a very capable team from Iraq, coordinating on the international level. Iraq is careful to pay a lot of effort and attention to the challenges, but at the same time we work with neighboring countries on the issues of water shortage, and it's important to provide sufficient waters in the banks of Furat and Dajla. That could be also important for the industrial sector. We signed several agreements, several contracts that we have started implementing solar powers for production also of solar energy and wind energy in the government of Wasat. Also, we implemented one of the most important agreements in the strategic field with our neighboring Turkey. And it will be one of the topics also that will be discussed during the upcoming visit from the Turkish Prime Minister. We are focusing on the agricultural sector in both countries. Thank you very much. Another question about the Iraqi dinar. Is the government thinking of reevaluating the dinar and readjusting the value of the dinar due to the current circumstances in the market, or do you see it to stay the same?
This policy actually is dictated by the central bank, and the government abides by what the bank decides. Right now, I believe we are in the best status that we could be in, and we have actually had an assessment which has given much trust, trust at a higher level from different global parties. So we started reforms when it comes to the banking sector. And when we spoke about that before, but this is going to actually raise the level of, or the value of the Iraqi dinar. And there is actually a policy that is consistent policy that has been the central bank is using when it comes to investments and how they invest the money for our own reserves here in Iraq. Of course, there are so many different topics that we could speak about, and time is always short. But if I speak about the lady that asked the question from the public, and she spoke about her emotion during about the kidnapping of a lady in Iraq. We have dealt with this before. We dealt with it as of any resident of our country in Iraq according to our laws. This is what happened. We have an investigative team that is actually following up on all parts of this crime. When we have actually arrived to some close enough to where this lady is or has been kidnapped to, and also there was a killing of an American citizen in Iraq, and within weeks we found the criminals, and they were actually stood in front of our courts in Iraq. We will not save any effort on protection of any resident or citizen found in Iraq. So I promised the lady that we will follow up and we will cooperate with all the security apparatuses, whether in our country or neighboring countries, to find out exactly what happened to the citizen that was referred to here in a question by one of our audience members. Thank you again, Mr. Prime Minister, and we actually value your time and that you actually consecrated for this meeting. We thank you about discussing these very important files or affairs that actually you are discussing with the United States and other countries around the world, and how you are right now administering or actually running the country and the affairs of Iraq, because Iraq is a very important country in the Middle East, and the success of Iraq and the government of Iraq is very essential and critical to this part of the world. And so thank you again for you and your delegation, and we wish you a good stay here in Washington and a safe trip back to Iraq. Thank you so much.